was playing against a fairly new player last night, and one of the things he said was he wasn't sure where he was going wrong and things. So I thought I'd do some match of the day style post match analysis.
I want to see that again.
And look at some things. I think one of the key things that's been going wrong is the amount of dice being rolled by this player. So, I mean, we'll see it during the game, but I think as a lot of experienced players will know about this game, it's largely about minimising the amount of dice that you roll, maximising the amount of dice that your opponents roll, and that's a key area that we're going to be able to highlight. Just skip through some of these opening cutscenes. Okay, so I was playing the Chaos team. I'm going to switch to the Orc view. Yes, I was playing Chaos against the Orc team. Orcs chose to receive at the beginning. And we'll just get through to the setup. One note I'd make on the setup here from the start. So probably this lineman has strength 4, which is a useful advance and means he's ideally located. But I would just tuck these 2 other Black Orcs in, which he does do later in the game at another kickoff. But that does mean immediately from the start he's got 2 dice blocks on this whole line of scrimmage without having to move anybody. And he can move these in on his first turn, but then he loses their action effectively. If you can move these Chaos Warriors out of the way straight away, these Black Orcs are free to move where they like. Yeah, that's one thing I'd change from the setup as well. It's pretty good. I get a blitz, which is unfortunate. Yeah, so my priorities here were to see, can I get someone under the ball? The way I decided to try and do that was to move this Black Orc out of the way. So I make some safe moves, but then I try to move the Black Orc and get someone in under the ball. So that'll be the play I'll be making in that situation. I did remark later in the turn when things were looking better for the Orcs that I got a bit gung-ho at this point, and I probably did put too many beastmen in the opponent's half. So move the blitzer out of the way, and then this guy's free to come through and stand under the ball with one go for it roll, which I do pretty soon. And it's always nice on a blitz if you manage to kick the ball to yourself, which successfully happened. But now, so James is starting his turn. He can quite easily take this ball carrier down with a blitz, but it forced him to do it. It forced him to use his blitz there rather than attacking my players who would be defending. So I was still quite pleased to have got on the ball straight away with the blitz. So James's priorities now should really be, because it's the first turn. First turn when he's receiving the ball, he needs to make sure the ball is safe. It's already pretty safe. Like, I'm not going to be able to go in and pick it up with 3 tackle zones. He doesn't need to panic about picking it up this turn. He just needs to make sure I can't get it in my first turn. That needs to be his priority. If he can clear players away from it, all the better. And with this Black Orc stepping forwards now, the ball's even safer. I'm not getting that ball in my first turn. He could really stop there, pick it up next turn. It'll be fine. He's got 8 turns to try and score. But he makes a go for it roll there. Makes 2 go for it rolls, in fact, to get on the ball. Picks it up with sure hands. So that's already 3 risky rolls happening all at once, which he didn't really need to make. More go for it rolls. This thrower had a terrible game for go for it rolls. But that's another go for it roll he didn't need to make. If we just stop here. So the thrower moved from there to there with a go for it roll. The thrower standing there, it's no easier for me to get at the ball this turn than it is with him standing there. He's right next to the ball carrier to give assists on any potential blocks that might come later, but I've got 2 Black Orcs and a Blitzer to move out of the way. That throw standing there, it makes it no easier for me to do that. So that was an unnecessary go for it roll. It used one of his re-rolls straight away to do that. And really, if there was just a thrower standing there with 5 tackle zones on the ball, I'm not getting it this turn. He didn't even need to go get it, pick it up this turn. And it's a shallow kick, and that can be awkward to deal with as someone receiving it. And I understand the impulse to want to go pick the ball up, but got to think about the priority of just make the ball safe, because ideally you want to score on turn 8 when you're receiving the ball with a slow moving team like Orcs. So this turn's playing out. All I'm trying to do is try and clear some of these players away from the ball carrier, and I have got a Chaos Warrior now marking the thrower. If we stop here, so James rolled straight into to making blocks, but he's got a player laying down, because if this block goes wrong, which it hasn't, you can see the result coming up. A turnover means he's not standing up. I've got a player marking the ball carrier. These are all risky things to be doing, and really you should be trying to move this Chaos Warrior first. Thrower can assist fine where he is. He's got a 2 dice block with this Black Orc. Doesn't have block, so he's got safer moves to make, but standing this Blitzer up, I think that's a Blitzer, isn't it? Yeah, standing that Blitzer up. Maybe blitzing with that Blitzer to get rid of the Black Orc with 2 assists, or throwing a block with this Black Orc after standing the Blitzer up has to be the priority move here to get the thrower clear of opposition. It worked out for him okay this time, but a double skulls here, re-rolling into double skulls, would have ruined his attack immediately. Making more 2 dice blocks. It's worth noting as well, he's made 2 dice blocks with players who don't have the block skill. Apologies, had the delivery to deal with. Don't get that. Alan Shearer doesn't do that on BBC. Alright. So the point I was making, if he's going to be going straight into making blocks, he's got this Black Orc with block. Should maybe be the first player he's trying to look at. Or his Blitzers have got block, obviously. Any 2 dice block with you having the block skill is much safer than those without. So he's made 2 relatively risky blocks as his first actions in the turn. He's been okay, no turnovers, but could easily happen. Still before having dealt with what's happening with the ball carrier. Now he makes the important block, and that comes off well. So he's got the ball carrier free, although it's pretty crowded around here. The ball carrier hasn't really got anywhere to go. So it's now clearing a path. If we just stop it there. So the Blitzer's gone as far as he can go. Now one thing to watch out for when you're moving a cage up the field, it's a good idea to move, especially he's still got 7 turns to score, including this one. You need to move really at the pace of the cage and not just the pace of the quickest player, because blitzers are quicker than throwers. He's got Black Orcs around who are going to get involved in protecting the ball carrier as well. This is going to force, because he wants to protect it in a tight cage, it's going to force more go for it rolls as he goes through, and we're going to see that play out. So really the blitzer could have come 1 space back. He could have caged up here in this sort of area quite safely. He's made a go for it to get that blitzer 1 space ahead of the thrower. He's moved this Black Orc in, made a go for it roll again, and now this thrower needs to come through. He wants to get into that space, fails a go for it roll. So that's a second reroll on the same thrower instantly. A second reroll for go for it rolls in 2 turns, and he's had to make 2 go for it rolls to get there. And if we pause it, so this blitzer made a go for it roll. Really there wouldn't have been any good. But if the whole cage was 1 square back, there'd been no go for it roll to get that blitzer there. Thrower could have been there. This blitzer Moved as far as he could safely anyway, but maybe could have been a square back. This blitz hasn't acted yet, so could potentially have gone further forwards and made the front the sort of leading edge of the cage. This Black Orc went for it as well, but wouldn't have had to on space back. This throw didn't need to come this far. So move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from back here. It could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Marks that Beastman. This Beastman is the only real threat to this corner of the cage. No dodge or anything. It would have been difficult for this Beastman to stand up and with 3 movement get round here. These ones could obviously have later come round, but this thrower being here would have been just as effective as being there, perhaps more effective, because this Beastman is now free to move next turn. And comes in and marks 2 players in the cage. So I'm looking at trying to move cage corners out to follow up into the ball carrier, which if you're using a tight cage like the Orc player has here, is always a risk. And because now I've got 2 players in on the ball carrier, this player sneakily has diving tackle, so he's exactly where I want him to be, marking the ball carrier to prevent dodges, or cause turnovers on dodges. So I've got some more free movements. I make go for it rolls 1 at a time here in case you need to use a reroll, which I do. I don't make many go for it rolls in this match, but that was 2 of them. And the failed one used a reroll to get it there. But if I'd have had to use a reroll on the first one, I wouldn't have made the second one.
Because it's the other team's go.
Okay, so let's just pause. So, first block up here has been a 2 dice block to push this Chaos Warrior back, but that really can't be the priority. He's got 2 players marking the ball carrier, and they need to go. Thrower currently can't assist blocks on either of these people. So really he's probably looking at a 1 dice block with this Black Orc with block on this Beastman, because he's got an assist. But this Beastman doesn't have block, doesn't have dodge. That might have to be, it would be a risky 1 dicer, but that was probably the first move he needs to make. Get this Beastman out of the way. Then the thrower can assist the block on here. And it's still going to be 1 dice blocks, but it's 1 dice blocks with players with block, so it's less risky. And obviously a 2 dicer over here, where is it? It's this one. It's safer, but it's not as important as clearing these players off. And if you can get rid of that Beastman, the thrower can then assist to move the Chaos Warrior. The Chaos Warrior is the difficult player to move here. Strength 4 and block is going to make him tricky, and he's in exactly the right place. But make some 2 dice blocks and they work out okay for him. It's down to Black Orc up after that. Could maybe have done that first, especially as he's not moved anywhere. Clearing out sort of inconsequential players here. I remember him saying during the game he wanted that to be a pushback because he wanted to move his blitzer forwards. That might have let this guy come in for a blitz if things had gone wrong. But he's gone for a blitz and a rush with his thrower. Same thrower, failing to go for it roll, 3rd turn in a row. This time the reroll doesn't help either. He takes a turn over there. And someone laying in the end zone. So now I'm looking at it. I want to pick up all my players first because I've got a lot of players laying on the floor. And I've got 2 players who can potentially get a block in on this thrower who's carrying the ball. So this is where the attack breaks down in this half with that failed go for it roll. And not dealing with these players who are marking the thrower. they'd been cleared away first, it would have been risky, but
Against the spirit of the game.
that wouldn't have happened, and that's where the ball gets dropped. Bounces around a bit, lands in a bad place for everybody. 3 tackle zones from Orcs on the ball there. So now I need to move it. If I can push someone back onto the ball, which is what I'm going to do here, it can only get better for me. And we get a death as well, which unexpected. My first death inflicted in this league, but James got really unlucky with the apothecary roll there as well. Double dead. That happens to all of us. It's a rite of initiation. And now I just moved that player who blitzed spur tackle zone on the ball as a safety play. Okay. So James moves immediately to get my player with a tackle zone on the ball off of it, which is a great first move. Although standing up this thrower would have been more important. He's also got this thrower laying down in the end zone. Unless he's going to throw this thrower the ball this turn, he should be standing up and moving away from the edge of the pitch, and you'll see why later. Because if he's going to be throwing next turn, he might as well not be in the end zone because he would still be able to move after catching the ball. So successfully clears away, makes the ball safe. Ball's pretty safe there. He will go pick the ball up this turn. Doesn't necessarily need to, but he does, and it's fine. So following up there does leave this Beastman marked, but also leaves this lineman very vulnerable. Even though it's a strength 4-1, he's got players all around him. Follows up there, which takes a tackle zone off the ball, but he comes and gets it anyway, and it's pretty safe there. Could maybe have tucked in one more square just to make it harder for me to get round at him. But yeah, I'm looking at my priorities here. I'll just switch my view to see what I could see. Both of these beastmen have block, and I knew I wanted one of them to go blitz this thrower. That's the main thing I wanted to do this turn. That means freeing one of them up by a 2 dice block on this blitzer to move him out of the way. And then I've got a free blitz on the thrower to try and send him off the pitch. Because he wasn't throwing the ball that turn. Like I said before, he should not be in the end zone. He's just leaving him way too vulnerable. If I can free this guy up, he can go round and mark the blitzer who's holding the ball. I could have blitzed him, but because I wanted to get this thrower off the pitch, I didn't. But I did make sure I could go mark him. So clearing this thrower out of the way, leaves the spaceman free to move. And that's my Chaos Warrior with block, so was the first block I made. Safe one with block first. And that's where the blitz comes in to try and get that player off the pitch. So that puts the Orcs down to 9 players now. And that was an injury for missing the next game. Could have been worse, but he's going to struggle next game with the thrower down. So this is where that lineman was vulnerable. 2 dice blocks, and I've just pushed him into 3 more players and left this beastman free. So it's standing up some players. Going for a blitz to clear this guy off the ball carrier, which is ideal and works out great. If we pause now, So this player was down, this player was down, and it's just standing up at the moment. But this blitzer is probably still, with 3 turns to go after this one, this blitzer's got to be the new best scoring threat, really. So he needs to be looking at how can he use this thrower to shield the blitzer here. And where he is a pretty decent place. So what I'd be doing is moving this blitzer in somewhere around here. Maybe if this thrower is 1 square over there, to protect against this beastman. But yeah, if this thrower is there or there, blitzer tucked in there somewhere, so the thrower screening against the beastman. That's probably how I'd be going from there. But he's come back further with the thrower and caged up here, which is pretty safe. But he could have been further up the pitch with the ball carrier and probably just as safe. Okay, so I'm making some safe moves. Just standing players up, moving players who are free. I left him down because I was considering blitzing with him when I stood him up. I just wanted to see how some other things went first. But I decided to use my blitz over here instead to go for this thrower. So I stood him up. And seeing how some of those actions worked out, I had moved to the other 3 players that I had. Following up from the cage corner, so ball carrier is marked again. You can come in there, so if this guy's moved out the way, I've still got Ko there. And have this Curse Warrior free to come and limit some options for some of these players moving around. And also, obviously put an assist on that block. Making that block, that was a 1 dice block that I made, and it's a mistake I'd highlight. I did not need to make that block. That lineman was marked by 2 players, had at best a 1 dice block on the beastman, and really wasn't a threat where he was. Now he is a threat because I only pushed him back. That was always going to be bad for me because I had to either follow up with that beastman, giving away a 2 dice block, or I don't follow up and I leave this lineman free to run for the end zone and put a pass on. And it's risky rolls, but he's always a scoring threat if he's in that area on his own. So I shouldn't have made that block. Should have just left it as it was. But again, sort of relatively safe, but not that important blocks happening before the important stuff. Now he's acting with the cage to try and clear away people. But really being some players down by this point, it's starting to look a bit dicey for the Orcs because he's got a best of 1 dice block here. Let's try and blitz with the ball carrier, which is always risky. And he rolled a skull with no rerolls left because they were all used up on go for it rolls early in the half. And that's where the second phase of the attack breaks down. So I'm faced with 1 tackle zone on the ball, and I have a player available to make a block if I can get assists in, or 2 players who can blitz, both of who have block. I think, yeah, both of them have block. So that's probably where I'm going to be looking to try and shift this Black Orc out of the way. I've got an assist here if I need it, laying on the floor. But yeah, so straight in to put a tackle zone on that Black Orc to prevent them moving anywhere next turn. And that's where I make the blitz. To try and clear away, I've got space to clear, even if I only get a pushback. A space to clear away the the Black Orc from the tackle zone. Knocking him over makes this player free. Also use the chain push to get him one step closer to the ball. And what was next? Oh yeah, so now I'm starting to move players to screen the ball carrier. Have a reroll available if I need it to pick the ball up. So I'm pretty confident of getting that done this turn. There we go, it's the ball successfully picked up. So you can see the difference here. Rather than forming a tight cage around the ball here, which I could have done, but that would have left stand-up blitzes into players protecting the ball carrier and then follow up into... Instead, I've just made a run for it, and I've made it really hard for any of these players to get through because all these squares are covered by players or tackle zones. There's no easy way through here. And even if they blitz one of these players out of the way, they're not following up to mark the ball carrier. They're still going to need more movement to get them. So really at this point, there's no catching this Beastman from here. This Black Orc, who has movement 4 and is marked, is the best threat to try and prevent a touchdown because these blitzers are laying on the floor.
Good call. Intimidation is the key. It's one of my strengths.
So you don't... Screening is possibly riskier, but is often much more effective. A much more effective way of moving the ball up the pitch. I'd have probably gone with the blitz with that Black Orc on the Beastman to try and move him afterwards to at least put pressure on the ball carrier. Instead he uses the blitz there to stand the Black Orc up and get a block with it. It's fair enough. But if you need to keep pressure on the ball carrier, you've got to use the closest player available to do that. Even if they're marked, you need to use a blitz there really. So, standing players up, and then safe moves, get the ball near the end zone. Moved another player to screen before realising no one was going to catch him, so then changed my mind about moving that player and sent him back into the fray.
It looks rather like an old traditional spectacle in their style.
And now I'm just making blocks to try and limit options. Maybe pick up some cheeky star player points on the goes too, but I don't think I'll get any this turn. And leave this Beastman exactly as he is because he's doing everything he needs to by marking that Black Orc. Oh, excuse me. So, yeah, all James had available to him is to try and throw some blocks, but the double skull straight away, which is very unfortunate. And I take no risks in turn 8 or 16 if I can score. I just do it.
Must be extremely frustrating, don't you think? And it's gone.
And that is pretty much the first half, I think. Yeah, that was half time. So if you can skip through some of these cutscenes, I think one knocked out thrower came back. But the Orcs were down to I think 9 players now to try and defend.
Must have the magic sponge this time.
Get through to the kick.
Smaller the team, the harder it is to score.
Yeah, I think we're almost there.
Replacements. They kick the ball to the winning, but they have to keep their heads because it'll be on the way back to them soon enough.
So one thing I did, that player who scored in the first half was previously on 10 star player points, now up to 13. I position players that I want to score touchdowns back here, so I put him back here to try pick up the ball, hopefully score and level up. This other player has no points, but I'd be happy if he scored as well to get off the mark. But yeah, it was a key thing to, rather than think about later, who do I want to score, who do I need to throw the ball to, just position from the start the players you want to score, where you're going to be making your plays. And Chaos being a running team, you're looking at who's going to pick the ball up and try and run it up the pitch. So I'm obviously, with the way the ball landed, I'm going to be attacking up the left, so I'm just making some moves to try and clear some space there. And a beastman with block and horns is an obvious candidate to go blitz somebody. So I'm setting up to get this outlying blitzer, hopefully on his back. That's what happened. Pushing him into another player means he's marked, limiting options when he stands up. That leaves this beastman quite vulnerable, that follow-up move, but he'd have to use his blitz there if he wants to deal with him, and he's got block and dodge, so I'm fairly happy of leaving him exposed like that. And that leaves this Chaos Warrior tanking 3 strength 4 players, which is not ideal. And obviously James actually plays defence really well here, because it's obvious I'm coming down, he's right. And if he squeezes me against the touchline, that's exactly the way to defend this kind of a play. Again, making blocks before standing players up is risky. Like this blitzer stood up and didn't do anything. This block had gone wrong, he'd have had 3 players laying on the floor. Could have pushed that Chaos Warrior along the lines, have another block at him, but he does free these Black Orcs up to move, which seems to be what he wants to do anyway, and he's setting up to squeeze my attack against this touchline, which is exactly right, exactly how anyone should play it. So I'm moving players furthest back first to see how far forward they can get to protect the ball carrier rather than the furthest forward ones. And then maybe being caught out later by not being able to, or having to go for it to get players into position. And apart from these 2 players here, I've gone for a looser screen rather than a tight cage around him. Wanted to blitz that player specifically because it's the only defensive player along this line of Orcs who was free, and I knew I could get 2 dice on them. But if we just look at the difference with, so if I'd had players, I could have put players in there and there, but really with the way these outlying screeners are positioned, no one's a threat to blitz from those squares. So I just don't need players in that close to the ball carrier. They're just as probably more effective here because I'm controlling much more of the pitch with, it's not just the square he's standing in, it's the 8 squares around him. So this player is controlling 9 squares here that the Orcs can't easily do stuff in. If he was back here, I'd be surrendering all this space for the Orcs to come in and block off my advance. As it is, they have to come further back, try and clear tackle zones and come and try and block me back off here, which gives me more turns to try and get my ball carrier through. So just controlling more of the pitch with a looser cage is often much more effective because it gives you freedom to move your ball carrier around. If he was back here and I had Orcs coming to stand right in front of my face, I can't move the ball carrier anywhere until I've dealt with them.
Attacker has an assist.
So it's freed up his thrower to come move around, stand in front of my advance. Another go for it roll failed, and another re-roll used on it. If we look at what he did, that go for it roll from there to there hasn't really gained him much, and it's cost him a re-roll to do it. By standing there, he's still left a space for me to get down unchallenged, back there, it would have been a 2 square wide space. Really, he hasn't gained much more by doing that. He may have, if he didn't use a reroll the first time, he may have gone for a second, which obviously would have shut it down more. But he's, yeah, spent a reroll for no gain with that go for it roll. And was doing it before standing players up again. That Blitzer stood up and did nothing else. That should have been the first move he made this turn.
Fancy being struck by one of those fists either.
So he's got 3 of the people protecting the ball all marked, so I need to deal with these Orcs. I can obviously move the ball carrier freely, but that could leave him vulnerable without players to screen as well, so I want to try it and make sure I can free up some of these beastmen at least to help protect the ball going forwards rather than moving the ball first. So I'm making moves to do that as a priority. Using a beastman with block to make the first block, so it's safer. Could have moved these players now before taking on that Black Orc. Had wrestle on this beastman, so it's still a relatively safe action. And I know I want to be blitzing this thrower because the thrower is the player who's most in my way. I'm going to be trying to do that probably with this beastman. I think it was. It's the most free. Left the ball carrier vulnerable there by putting him in a tackle zone, but I'm confident, and that goes wrong, and then that goes wrong on a reroll. So my whole attack could well be falling apart here. So we'll just pause. So now James has got a very good chance of trying to break my attack down. Got this player on the floor. He's got a block on this beastman. This beastman doesn't have block or dodge. This thrower has block, so that's where he wants to be probably making the attack. He's not going to be able to get in. This is the only square that he can assist on. He's probably not going to get anyone there, so he needs to make sure he can get 1 dice on here, which means taking out this beastman's tackle zone. That needs to be his move. He's got this blitzer who can come around and do it. He's got 2 Black Orcs on a beastman here. He can get rid of that beastman. They've got an easy move in to try and do that, but watch what happens instead. So push on the beastman, but still leaves the Black Orc marked and doesn't get him over. So these 2 Black Orcs have now used their actions without affecting the ball. Blitzer comes in to stand next to the ball carrier and really that's no benefit at all. If he was coming in to make a blitz, he would have needed this beastman's tackle zone negated, probably by one of these Black Orcs. But instead he stood there and hasn't added anything to his chances of taking down the ball carrier. Used wrestle there just because that Black Orc had block. Probably would have taken the both down if he didn't for a turnover. And we've had to use a reroll there for doing blocks that just aren't as important as this one. Because he had two dice uphill block, he's gone for this leading beastman here, and he has squeezed in my ball carrier like pretty effectively, but he could have got a block on him that turn where he'd have had big advantage. 1 in 2 chance of bringing him down. So now I'm just looking at what I need to do to get rid of this blitzer who's marking the ball carrier. I can score this turn. He's 6 squares away, but it means moving this blitzer and this thrower out of the way. If I can do that, clear this space, he can be moving back without dodging, right down the sideline, and score. To get the blitzer out of the way, I have to use a reroll for it, because I had a player without block making that block. And then I safely use the thrower out of the way to clear that space. Then I thought, because it's not the last turn of the half, I'll make some other actions. Fairly safe 2 dice block with block, but roll a double skull. Because I like to use my reroll before. That was a turnover where I could have just scored. So now the Orcs have another chance to try and shut down my attack. Perfectly positions that Black Orc. That's going to be difficult to move. Because this down the touchline is still my easiest route of scoring. And that's too many dodges to make. Puts another Black Orc in there, which means this Beastman's not going to be able to assist any blitzes I make. So the best I can hope for is 1 dice there. Gets a good chain push on the ball carrier to push him 1 away from the end zone, which is all great stuff. Forces me to go for it at best if I can clear a path. And, some 1 dice blocks, which both work out well. Did pretty well with 1 dice blocks actually in this game, the Orc player. Okay, so this leaves me looking at trying to pick players up, and I have to move this Black Orc. And like I said before, this Black Orc being here means this Beastman's no help. I can get strength 4 on him with a blitzing Beastman, but it's going to be 1 dice at best. This is probably the best candidate to do it, but it means I have to clear away this line first. So that's what I'm looking to do. Stand players up, clear this lineman out of the way, blitz this Black Orc, and then score. So everything I'm doing is towards doing that as a priority. For some reason I decide to make a block up there as well. It's because I wanted to free up a different Beastman to make that blitz. I think that's probably a safety play in case that went wrong. Then the ball carrier is still pretty well protected. Go for it, works out. So that was the 2nd touchdown. And it was that same player who's now levelled up because of that touchdown as well. Took wrestle, so don't need to go a diving tackle. Makes him a pretty good defensive player.
So, none of the knocked out players seem to have awoken.
Orcs are now very short-handed on players, down to 9, which actually is the same as the last time. This time does tuck those Black Orcs in to get the assist straight away for 2 dice blocks. And might have to kick. So a quick snap. Now if we look at where the ball's aiming to land, decent chance that's going to be a touchback. Does start moving everyone back to cover the ball. Now I know this player likes to cage up quite quickly and deep in their own half, which can really slow down the attack. He's got 4 turns to score. He should be looking at getting blitzers up the pitch rather than coming back. If the ball is landing there, there's no way I'm getting it in 3 turns, I don't think. So he doesn't need to be caging up back here. He needs to just be stopping me getting through to the ball carrier. But all the blitzers come back. And it's a touchback. So those the blitzers and the linemen didn't gain anything, even if the ball was there by coming back another square. It just didn't need to happen. It's not a big thing, but it didn't need to happen. Now he's making blocks before moving the ball. With 4 turns left, you need to be getting the ball up the pitch as a priority, because Orcs just don't move quickly enough to risk having it that far back in your own half if you want to be scoring. Could have made blitzes with either of these Black Orcs on my Beastmen on the corners, but just moves forward with them. Then moves the ball forward, forms a tight cage down here, which doesn't really need to do. Could have been, so I'm no threat at getting at the ball from this wing, so he just needs to watch these three beastmen who are free to move. All of these players are going to be more effective protecting the ball carrier from up here, up near the halfway line, as they are down here, because I'm not getting at the ball carrier with three orcs standing in my way there. And that's controlling much more of the pitch. It's forcing me to not advance as high as I can. But because I was feeling quite confident of not conceding in the next 3 turns, I don't put as much pressure on this cage as I might have done. Decided again instead to try and outnumber the line of scrimmage and just sort of play it safe on the wing. So I'm just setting up some 2 dice blocks, moving players in a position to later put pressure on the ball if I can. But this was as far as these beastmen could go safely this turn. Even if they'd gone for it, they'd only be here. We didn't need to protect this side of the cage, this side of the ball carrier.
Unity is strength.
Come on, guys, together.
So I just set up to try and defend the attack down my right later, rather than immediately go pressure the ball. I play with diving tackle back there to try and get on the ball carrier later. And this player in the way. So at this point, the Orcs need to be looking at getting, they've got 3 turns left. These blitzers have to get up the pitch. They need to get this guy out of the way and get up the pitch and screen the ball. This lineman had been up here rather than back here, which he didn't need to be. He could have gone and put an assist down on that beast man. Blitzer comes in, knocks him aside at worst probably, leaving space for the ball carrier to come in, the other blitzer to screen. But because they're so much further back, it slows down the advance and makes it harder for him to get the ball up the pitch.
That left is looking rather smug for remaining upright. Pride comes before a fall.
As it was, he had to use a blitzer to get the assist on the beastman. The blitzers are quicker, so it would have been far better if a runner was doing it. The blitzer could get further. And I probably would have done these the other way around, to get the assist from there, the blitz from there, so you can knock the beastman aside and still mark him with the player that assisted. As it is, the player who's still mobile is the one that could be marking the beastman. Doesn't get a stun, so that beastman is now free to move next turn and interfere with the attack, which means it's very hard to protect the ball carrier in here.
That's a dangerous place to be.
That beast, if the thrower's here, the beastman could just stand up and 2 dice block him with horns. Instead, that free to move beastman just goes and stands in the way of the advance. My diving tackler comes in to mark the biggest scoring threat. But I go for a blitz for a Curse Warrior, which only is a push. But that blitz is still marked by my diving tackler. And I throw his remaining movement towards the ball carrier. And that quite effectively shuts down the attack from that point. Another beastman in to put a tackle zone on all 3 of those players. Really limits it completely negates any chance of assists on blocks for the next turn for the Orcs. And I took a attacker down there. Right, so at this point, turn 15 or turn 7 in any half in any game, if you have any chance of scoring, you need to have someone who can reach the end zone at the end of this turn. that means this blitzer, the biggest scoring threat, obviously is marked by a diving tackler, so dodging is going to be risky. But 2, 4, 6, if he wants to score without going for it in the last turn, needs to be on this pale green line at the end of this turn. If he wants to do it with go for it, he needs to be on this pale green line. If he doesn't do that, it's going to be impossible to score. It might still be a slim chance, it might be really risky to try and score in his last turn, but if he doesn't do that, it's going to be impossible. So that's a thing to look out for every turn. Every half you play, you should be looking at having someone who can be in scoring position, just in case you have the ball or can get the ball and chuck it to them. Even if you're not a passing team, you've got to give yourself the option of the possibility to score. So the play has to try and do that. This blitzer blocks this beastman and follows up. He might be able to score with go for it. Best thing to do would be to blitz this beastman, get him out of the way. Ideally, if he knocks him over, follow up for a free dodge away from the Chaos Warrior. If he only gets a push, stay where he is and try and dodge away from this Chaos Warrior, which is much safer than doing it from a diving tackling beastman. But instead, he goes for the Chaos Warrior. Uses a reroll to only get a pushback. Doesn't follow up, but he's no closer to the end zone. And at that point, it becomes impossible to score in the last turn. So I know there's no touchdown coming, so I just make some moves to try and get some 2 dice blocks. And really, that's the game at that point. Once there's no chance of scoring at the end. Don't think anything else significant happened.
This player likes to be well assisted.
Turnover there from a base down. And I think there's a pretty quick turnover in this turn as well.
To be decisive.
Yeah, that was the last act of the game, a 1 dice attacker down. So just wanted to look at some of the stats from the game. I'm not saying that I played this game perfectly or anything, but I've been playing it a long time. And I just want to look at the difference in some things. So I failed 1 from 5 go for it rolls. If we look at the Orc team, 5 from 14 go for it rolls. The percentages are obviously different a bit. It's about 10% difference in, well, actually 10% difference in the success rate. But making 14 go for it rolls in a game compared to 5, that's the difference in, if you're going to take more risks, it's going to fail more often. Similarly, with things like block dice, I don't make that many 1 dice blocks. Because they're risky. A lot of time I'll only do it if it doesn't really matter. Sometimes I just make a mistake or get carried away and want to knock someone over. But 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 1 dice blocks compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 1 dice blocks. That is a massive difference. It's really risky to do it. And you can see that some of them are going wrong. A lot of them actually went pretty well for him. But he had to use some rerolls on 1 dice blocks. Some of them are skulls. 1 dice blocks are a risky thing to do. And it's and it's the thing I said at the beginning. If you're rolling fewer dice, making the opponents roll more, things go wrong less, and that's the essence of it. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope it wasn't condescending. It's definitely not the intention. I know it never is when people do this, but it can be taken that way. That's not what I wanted to do. I just hope it was helpful. Bye.